Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we give thanks for a basket full of brands that have delivered us a bounty of delicious flavors to feast on in 2017. Grab your plate of mashed potatoes because this podcast is about to pour over you like Thanksgiving gravy.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and with me is my co-host, Patrick Jebber. What's cracking, Patrick?
Well, we haven't quite cracked into our turkey. I don't know if you'd actually call it that, cracking into the turkey.
I always sit down for Thanksgiving dinner and I say, let's crack this thing.
Let's crack this bird open. Yeah.
Then people look at me like I'm crazy as I take a chisel and a hammer.
Yeah, and then it just opens up and dust comes out like in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, that's better. I was thinking of it's like an egg, so then when you actually crack it open, like blood comes gushing out.
Then you haven't cooked your turkey long enough. Blood is pouring out of your turkey when you open it.
Call it nature's gravy.
That's disgusting. What would be better is if you were cracking it open and like yolk came out, like egg yolk. Like, what the hell kind of turkey is this?
This is like horror Thanksgiving we're talking about.
It could be. That would be a great horror movie.
Or like something then comes out of the turkey and attacks everybody. They're like these insane baby turkeys jump out, chasing them around the house.
Ah, yeah. Turkey puts you to sleep. You wake up face down in a puddle of turkey blood.
The turkey drugs you with itself. You wake up and there's like turkey standing there and you're chained to the wall.
Absurd horror movies.
Yeah, there's a good title in there somewhere like No Thanksgiving or Dead Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be No Thanks, Giving.
Makes no sense, but it works. Here's $2 million. Go make it.
So, Shad, I have a question for you. I'm actually a little afraid to ask. Almost as much as scary turkey movies.
Yeah, like an insane turkey coming at you.
Yeah.
I'm interested. You piqued my curiosity.
So, you ready?
I am ready. I think. I'm scared. What is it?
Since we're talking about brands today, what brand or product branding do you remember the most from your childhood? You know, maybe it was something related to the holidays because we're at this time of year.
It's a great question. When I think back to my childhood, the things that kind of stick in my mind the most in terms of like marketing or branding tends to be related to, and this is something we've talked about in the past, jingles, commercial jingles. That's kind of where my mind immediately goes. Like I go to the Hot Pockets jingle or like the game Crossfire had a song. Like I can picture those songs and jingles in my mind. So that's probably where I immediately go to. It's tough to think of, though, what one specific brand really sticks with you. Bonkers is an example of a candy brand. They used to have commercials with fruit falling on people that I was recently telling my son about and showing him commercials because it was so ingrained in my head from when I was a kid. So most of it goes back to that commercial marketing.
Jingles and candy is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically jingles and candy or toys. Toys is probably another one. What about you? What would you say for that?
When I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about the stuff that I remember from the holidays. Like, what was a product or a brand that I was looking forward to as like a Christmas present? I kept coming back to a couple very notable Christmas product brands. And one was the Nintendo, which we've talked about a million times, I think. And laser tag. Do you remember laser tag?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That was huge.
It was huge. And I remember that product so well because it was laser tag and then there was a knockoff called Photon. Do you remember that?
I don't remember Photon.
Photon was like, if you got the Photon one.
It's kind of like getting a GoBot instead of a Transformer.
Exactly like that. So I remember I got a laser tag for Christmas, but nobody else I knew got one. So you couldn't play with anyone. Pretty sad for a kid, you know, when you get something super cool and then you can't play with it.
That was definitely a good one. That was something I always wanted. Anytime I went to another kid's house and they had it, it was a big deal. I was always like, yes, laser tag. It really had a great moment in the sun. Great toy.
It was. And it became a phenomenon that sort of became bigger over the decades, right? Because now people go to laser tag businesses and buildings. When you type in laser tag, you actually get a wiki that really talks about it as sporting event, which is interesting, right?
Didn't even know that. I remember there was a period of time where those laser tag places were like the hot trend.
They basically say it's like paintball. It's not as physical and nobody gets hurt technically.
You don't get paint on you?
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Another thing that kind of springs to mind when you talk about specifically holidays is one thing I remember always being around at our house around Christmas were those Andes mints.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those like green wrappered mints? I always remember those being around. So that's kind of a prominent brand I can think of within the holiday season.
I never really liked Andes mints, but man,
blasphemy.
You would get people, they would come to your house and they'd steal them.
They were like a hot commodity. To me, I was like, oh, the caviar of candy.
That's how I felt too. I'd much rather have Bonkers.
Do you remember the Bonkers commercials?
I do remember the Bonkers commercials, yeah.
I remember them far more than I remember the actual candy. I just remember the marketing.
That's what I was going to say. I don't really remember the candy, but I remember the marketing from it. How weird is that?
Maybe that's why the candy's no longer around.
Yeah.
Well, it's good stuff. It's a great question. It really gets me thinking. It's one I'll probably think about for the rest of the day now. And it's a good segue into what we're about to talk about, which is some of the brands we are thankful for this year. But first, let's get a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Farmers Insurance. Insurance can be confusing, overwhelming, and time-consuming. At Hire Insurance Agency, we remove the guesswork and hassle, helping you protect what matters most. We offer a wide range of auto, home, business, and life insurance policies to help you meet your specific needs. Call 844-543-3463 or visit hireinsurance.com. That's HYRE insurance.com for more information.
You love having Thanksgiving dinner with your family and enjoying a second serving of a delicious home-cooked meal. But afterwards, you feel stuck and restricted in your uncomfortable jeans, khakis, or slacks. You try to unbutton your pants for relief, but they're too tight. You're trapped. Stop the frustration and the embarrassment. The solution is here. Introducing Stovetop Thanksgiving Dinner Pants. This is the stuff Thanksgiving is made of, and the perfect way to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner in comfort and style. Stovetop Thanksgiving Dinner Pants with their non-patented stuff and stretch waistband allow you to eat in comfort.
You just heard an audio clip from a parody infomercial for Thanksgiving dinner pants from Stovetop Stuffing. Well, that marketing effort is meant to be comical. Stovetop has actually made those pants available for purchase on the website, ThanksgivingDinnerPants.com. So if you're looking for a little extra waist space this holiday, Stovetop is a brand you might be thankful for. So right now, we're going to share some of the brands we're thankful for this year. And before we jump into our list, let me just mention an important caveat we kind of put in there when developing those lists. And that is no Apple or Amazon. Those can't be brands we're thankful for. Even if they are brands we're thankful for, we've just been driving them into the ground within the past year. The Apple and Amazon talk on this podcast has really just gone over the top. So we thought we'd push those aside. Right?
What? I never agreed to this.
You're like, there goes 2/3 of my list.
That's just absurd. No, and I think that's good. We got to give love to other brands. And it made you think about, in my own personal opinion, I was thinking about what brands do I use that I actually rely on outside of the big things, you know, especially like technology.
Yeah, I thought that way too. And honestly, I had a tough time. There's usually brands I'm really attached to at the moment because of a specific product. I don't know, for whatever reason, this year I had a tough time, like even thinking of those because I didn't have those key ones. I had to dig a little deeper.
I didn't have a hard time this. I don't know.
You never have a hard time. Every list we make, you never have a hard time, and every one is like a life or death struggle for me. I love a good list, and yet they cause me so much stress.
Yeah. Someone wise once told me that you want to challenge yourself in life. So if the list is what's challenging to you, then we should do more lists. We should do lists every day, or every other day.
I love lists. Lists are great. Who doesn't like a good list? So let's get to our list. You want to go first, Patrick?
Yeah, sure. So my first pick of a brand that I'm very thankful for this year is Under Armour. I particularly like their workout clothes. So I'm thankful for it personally, right? And then, I was just thinking a little bit more about their branding, and I was thinking about how many people seem to be wearing Under Armour or promoting it. For example, The Rock. If you follow The Rock on Instagram, he pumps the brand like crazy. He actually has his own line called the Project Rock Collection. So they're doing a great job in terms of their branding and marketing themselves out there. I did read, though, from CNN Money, their sales are down. They fell nearly 5% from a year ago in the United States, but they've been growing internationally, so their sales have been surging like in Europe and Latin America and Asia. So I think the brand seems to be doing well from the outside looking in.
I'm actually surprised to hear they're even down at all, and that might be the result of just experiencing such huge growth in the past few years.
Yeah.
Because I know that's really a brand that's come into prominence. I even remember it was like 10 years ago. I think my dad or somebody introduced it to me because I used to like to run outside in the winter when it was really cold. So I got some stuff that would keep you real warm from Under Armour. I mean, they've just come a long way. They're much more prominent. The marketing's more out there. They have these athlete endorsements. They're shelling out a lot of cash for that stuff. So the one thing about Under Armour, I don't know where they originate, what country exactly, but it always drives me a little crazy that Armour is Armour, which is the British spelling of Armour.
Yeah, they're based out of Baltimore in the United States.
They're based out of, oh really?
Yeah.
Where did they start in?
Yeah, it says it's a Baltimore-based company.
Huh.
Isn't that funny? I'm assuming that maybe they had to do that because
Trademark issue or
trademarking,
something?
Yeah, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have to check that out. That's a good brand and a good choice.
Yeah. So, brand I'm thankful for. How about you? What's the first on your list?
Oh, the first on my list, you're going to love this one, Patrick. The first on my list is the Cleveland Browns.
Ah.
Now, you may be thinking to yourself,
Why would you be thankful?
why on earth would you be thankful for the Cleveland Browns? Why on earth would you be thankful for a team with 4 wins in the past 3 years? A team that's gone through quarterbacks like some people go through
Garbage bags back.
garbage bags. Yeah, exactly. What is there to be thankful for here? Now, let me tell you, we live in such an uncertain world where you can't rely on anything anymore. You know, brands you love one day, the next day, there's something totally different, or they do some sort of customer service guffaw and they're ruined. The Cleveland Browns, you know exactly what you're going to get. Week in and week out, they're on brand. They are exactly who they are, you know? That kind of consistency and certainty, there's a certain comfort level to it. They're not even lovable losers. They're just losers, but at least you know what you're getting, you know what I mean? And that's a lesson in the business world. You can look at this business and say, this is everything we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But in terms of a brand, they're always on brand. Every week, you're going to see, you know, ridiculous mistakes, poor performance. You know exactly what you're going to get. And like I said, there's a comfort level to me. I'm thankful for that. There's no surprises there. So I'm going to give them this slot just for that reason alone. What do you think?
It's an interesting pick, I will say that. But I kind of like that pick because you're right. There is a consistency to losing. They found a niche in losing so poorly, in fact, that
it's like we're not just going to lose. We're going to lose a lot and in a sort of hopeless, very depressing way.
You know, the great thing about that pick is that they do lose a lot over and over again, but there is like this little inkling always of hope because they're so far down, because they've lost so often and so much, that when they do something right in a game, you almost think, oh my God, they could maybe win this game. And then...
Yeah, it's true.
And then...
They blow it somehow, and usually in ridiculous fashion.
Yeah. It's like they don't let you down. You've already been let down, right?
You're already down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great pick, man. And while some would probably pick the consistency of like, let's say the Golden State Warriors winning or the Cleveland Indians when they were winning game after game after game, and they went on that winning streak. While people would generally pick that type of consistency, I like that you picked a brand that has the opposite.
I'm, something of a contrarian, and we're in the midst of football season, so it felt appropriate.
Yeah.
There's also the business aspect to it. They're such a poorly run team. The constant managerial turnover and, pulling of quarterbacks, putting in new quarterbacks. It is a great example to businesses. This is exactly what you should not be doing if you want to be successful, They just have this environment where success is almost impossible in a way that defies the odds, because any sports team, if you gave them 10 years, even if they were terrible, they might luck into a winning season. But that's not really happening in this scenario. Of the losers, they've kind of cornered the market by taking it to a new level.
They might luck into a winning season. We just want to luck into winning a game. A game. If we could win one game, they could turn everything around.
It's like winning one game is the equivalent of winning the Super Bowl.
I love it. Yes, that is true. I think if we won one game, there would be riots in the streets. People would be flipping cars over with their bare hands, lighting the city on fire.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
So definitely a brand I'm thankful for. That's my ridiculous, every list I make has to have an absurd pick. That's my one. Thank you, Cleveland Browns.
I appreciate that pick. So the next on my list is a brand that many know as Keurig.
I like the way you say that.
Yes, Keurig. Keurig is actually Keurig Green Mountain Incorporated, and they're the maker of the Keurig brewing system as well as the K-Cups, single-serve coffee pods. This is something that I use every single day, and I thought to myself, this brand has become such an integral part to many people's daily lives. Brewing a cup of coffee, they're all over the place. They dominate, whether it's in a business break room or in a home kitchen. The Keurig, they dominate. What I thought was really interesting, and I did not know this, is that in December of 2015, it was bought by an investor group for $13.9 billion. Did you know that?
That is pretty notable. It makes sense, though, man. When you think about how these things have spread, it's one of those areas where there just wasn't all that much innovation. And then you have something that's completely different and very beneficial. And now these things are everywhere. You know what I mean? Like every office. I was in urgent care the other day. There was a Keurig in the lobby there. They've taken over. And it makes sense. Why? Because that was one of the big things, with coffee is like, I don't want to brew a whole pot. Now you can just, grab a pod, make a cup anytime you want. It's a huge difference. And obviously that brand is they're everywhere.
Yeah, it's also one of those brands that pod coffee is pretty big in Europe. But in North America, Keurig made the K-Cup synonymous with pod coffee. In Europe, that's not the case. There's actually a lot of different systems.
But yeah, definitely synonymous here. I mean, when people think of that type of coffee, they're thinking of Keurig.
Yeah, I love me a good cup of coffee, so Keurig had to make that list.
It's a good one. There's a lot to... You're right. I'm surprised that I don't think that brand has ever come up on this podcast before, and yet such a huge one within just this past decade.
I told you, my list... I didn't have a hard time, and I've got brands that we've never talked about before.
I know. I like it.
What's next on your list?
So my next one is also one we haven't talked about before. Not surprisingly, comes from the world of film. And so my number 2 is Blumhouse Productions. Are you familiar with Blumhouse, Patrick?
What is it?
Blumhouse. Blumhouse.
No, I have no idea.
Well, if you don't know the name, you probably know the movies. So this is one of those rare production companies. Even if you haven't heard of it, the brand has developed into, it's almost becoming that regular name where people talking about it just because they have changed or are doing something different than the typical Hollywood model of making movie. They've created this system where they make these movies on budget that make a ton of money. And so whereas Hollywood's spending a lot of money to make movies that make a lot of money and therefore getting, a sizable return, but not that big compared to what they're actually spending, they have a different model where it's like, let's spend small on these interesting movies and, get big returns, which they've pulled off time and time again. So what Blumhouse does is they basically make horror movies, mostly horror kind of thriller movies. And they say their model is producing high quality, micro budget genre films. Some people have called them the Pixar of horror movies. That's kind of where the reputation has developed.
Okay.
And they've had a big year in 2017, mostly because of two movies. The two biggest this year in 2017 are Split. Do you see the movie Split?
I didn't see that yet, but it's on my list.
Produced for $9 million, ended up making $138 million at the US box office. And then the other movie was Get Out, which is even more impressive. It took a budget of $4.5 million and turned that into $175 million at the US box office. And it's something I hope will kind of seep into other parts of the film industry. You know, as we're seeing people adopt this model, let's make movies for reasonable prices in order to turn a profit rather than just the constant barrage of superhero movies and sequels. So that's why I picked them. That's why they've been something that's been on my radar. I keep reading articles about this brand and this production house and how they're doing something different, focusing on this specific area, and have been very successful at it.
It's a great pick. And I love that you always tie it back to how the movies made money. Isn't that what we're all trying to do in business?
Exactly. And it's when you look at, it's like any investment. How much are you getting back compared to what you spend? Most of what we're seeing with the big studios in Hollywood now is like make a $200 million movie and then that'll worldwide end up making like $1 billion, but at US you're making maybe that much back. It's just all about scale. I just for me personally, I like not necessarily the smallest independent movies, but those kind of mid-range movies. There used to be more of like the comedies and action movies that weren't $100 million budgeted movies, but were still good movies. I feel like we're seeing less and less of those.
Yeah, that's true. Well, speaking of spending a lot of money, that takes me into my third brand that I'm thankful for this year, and that is Hendrick's Gin. Have you heard of Hendrick's Gin?
Oh, I'm not sure that I have.
It's a most unusual gin. Most people know Tanqueray, they know Bombay Sapphire, they know Beefeater. Hendrick's Gin is a brand produced by William Grant & Sons in Scotland. It was launched in 1999, and it's built this brand marketing that is different than all the other alcohols out there. They go for this very unusual, very strange, and eclectic, I guess I would say. The brand has just done some really great things with their marketing. They have a really cool website. I had heard someone talk about Hendrick's Gin, and this is kind of, I think, with all alcohol, right? You hear somebody mention something, and it's more word of mouth than anything. And I heard someone say, yeah, it's a really good gin. It's expensive, but, usually in alcohol, that's a good sign, right? So I tried it, and brand I'm thankful for this year, not because I'm, semi-alcoholic, but because it takes the edge off, Shad.
Let me ask you this. Do you drink it straight or do you mix it?
You could drink it straight, but I mix it with ginger ale. Gin is just so dry usually that it actually offsets it a little bit.
It changes, I'm sure, our listeners' perception of you. Thought you were just this, regular guy. Now they're picturing this elegant gentleman who's sitting at home in a tuxedo sipping his gin and ginger ale.
They thought I was stuffy. Now they think I'm pretentious and stuffy. Doesn't gin have that perception, though?
Yeah, maybe I just don't totally see that because of, gin and juice.
Or because I drink it? Now you're like...
because the combination of the two. Gin and juice was, I feel like, a popular drink, when we were younger. Nobody had any money. Everybody was drinking it.
When Snoop Dogg made it big, you mean? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A good recommendation for our classy listeners out there. Hendrick's Gin. All right. Maybe I'll try it someday. Maybe it'll change my whole perception of gin. So, all right. Well, let me take it from, your elegant life down back to the people, back to us. Common man is what I would call it. My final brand that I'm thankful for is Frank's Red Hot.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's definitely a far cry from Hendrick's Gin.
It's a contrast.
Yeah.
So, there are certain brands that just become such a part of our lives. They almost kind of blend into the background. You almost forget they're there. You underrate them a little bit. Frank's Red Hot is one of those for me. Consistently for the past 2 decades, I've had Frank's Red Hot in my fridge. Not the same bottle. Just keep buying it because it's one of those things I always want to have. I put it on eggs, I put it on chicken, I put it on tacos, I put it on burgers, I put it on everything. To me, it's the perfect combination of heat and flavor. Whenever I need to just add a little taste to something, go grab the Frank's Red Hot. The bell rung and I'm like, I need to add it to this list. I got to give it a shout out because it's not one of those brands that gets a lot of buzz or anything like that. But I've had this long-term relationship like we were talking about with Apple last week. I treasure having in my life. And even on the marketing and branding, I like their logo. I like what they're doing online. They have a decent Twitter presence. They have a great tagline, which is, I put that blank on everything, which really fits with how I use it. I think how most of their fans of this brand use it. So it really taps into that. So just a brand I use a lot, I have a lot of love for, and I'm definitely thankful for. Shout out to Frank's Red Hot.
You know, it's funny. We have it in our house. I love that you picked Frank's Red Hot because it is something that's a staple in most people's refrigerators.
Yeah.
A brand that's highly underrated.
I agree. And a great contrast to Hendrick's Gin. So now people have, they picture you sitting there in your tuxedo drinking your gin. They picture me with like food all over a t-shirt chugging hot sauce.
Yeah. So do you use that on everything? Really? Like you put it on eggs?
Yeah. Eggs are one of those things I like sometimes if they're not made into like an omelet or there's not some sort of flavor added to them, I'm kind of like, this is fairly tasteless. So I put it, put a few drops of the Frank's on there, give it a little flavor. Like chicken, I do the same thing. Whenever something feels like it's lacking in flavor, bust out the Frank's Red Hot.
Yeah, like chicken, I would put barbecue sauce on, but I guess you could do Frank's Red Hot. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mix it with ranch. You make this spicy ranch. Delicious.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great pick, man. I like it. And something that's near and dear to your heart, right? Which we always love to have on our lists.
Yeah, this is why this has been a good list to do. Going towards some sort of brands we don't normally talk about.
Yeah, that should get some love, like you said.
And finally, they do. Someone is saying on a podcast they are thankful for them.
I could say this with a lot of certainty that there's never been a podcast where someone has listed their favorite brand as Frank's Red Hot. Would you say that's probably accurate?
Don't be so sure. Don't be so sure.
I know there's
a lot of podcasts.
There's thousands and thousands of podcasts, but I could probably say with certainty this is the first podcast to ever say Frank's Red Hot, favorite brand I'm thankful for.
Well, listeners, there's your challenge. Make sure you email us to let us know if you can find one.
We will send you something special. And on that note, everyone, let's get our final nugget of human wisdom. Human wisdom.
All right, Patrick, our nugget of human wisdom today comes from Twitter, where a strange and fun hashtag has sprung to life for the Thanksgiving season. That hashtag, Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. And it's really brought out some quality comedic material. So I have some examples here I'm going to share, and then you can go for yourself, check out the hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. So our first one comes from Craig One Tweet Wonder, and he says, forcing the turkey to be thankful at gunpoint. Hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. Another one comes from KAMA, comma, driving their 86 miles to feel uncomfortable for 3 hours. Hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. And then we've got one from Paula Poundstone. Do you remember Paula Poundstone, the comedian who was popular in the 80s?
Yeah, is this the official Twitter handle for Paula?
Yeah, this is the real Paula Poundstone.
Really? Okay.
And hers is hacking up millions of big birds to recreate an event that never happened in the first place. Hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. And then just a couple more for you here. One from Shay Browning. Hiding giblets under your pillow the night before Thanksgiving. Hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. And the last and maybe best one comes from B, simply the letter B. She's at the vegan parent. And hers is stuffing a dead turkey with stale breadcrumbs to celebrate the genocide of Native Americans. Hashtag Weird Thanksgiving Traditions. So you get a sense of what's going on with that hashtag, and it's a lot of weird things people do with family, or just like the absurdities of Thanksgiving as a holiday, this forced sit around a table with everybody and eating. A lot of them are concentrated on turkey, like why are we eating turkey at this thing?
I will say hiding giblets under your pillow the night before Thanksgiving, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard. I don't know why you would even do that, but, it's a weird Thanksgiving tradition for sure, I would think. Because I've never heard anybody.
It's probably a joke. It's probably not real, but maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know, some people do some weird things. You never know. That might be a tradition somehow. You have any?
I used to, pre-kids, I used to like to watch The Godfather on Thanksgiving weekend. The Godfather and Godfather Part 2. But
Really?
Yeah, it used to be kind of a thing I would do. I did multiple years in a row. It's like an investment. You got to invest a whole day in it, but
Yeah, it's a long movie.
something I enjoyed. But I mean, between the two of them, you're talking about like 6 hours.
Because you could leave it on pretty much all day, walk in and out of the room, and you're catching a part of the movie, right?
No, you got to sit down and pay attention. This is serious.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. It's not like ours seems pretty obvious, right? We watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That makes sense because it is a holiday-themed movie.
It's a holiday movie. There was mention within this hashtag also of somebody, which I don't think is even weird because it's pretty common, watching planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really weird. That's what I was wondering. Does the hashtag spark some really weird things, or is it just like pretty obvious things that then they're just kind of pointing out as like, this is weird that we're celebrating it, blah, blah, blah?
It's kind of a mix. It's definitely expanding every minute. This is, I think, got some legs in the past few days where people are using it a little more.
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to be using it even more now that they've heard about it on Speaking Human.
No doubt.
So that's a great human wisdom for today, and that's it for today's episode, everyone. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast on speakinghuman.com. While you're there, sign up for our weekly emails and let Speaking Human come to you every Friday into your inbox.
Tweet us your picks for brands you're thankful for in 2017 using the hashtag #BrandThanks. Or just send us your favorite turkey meme at speaking_human on Twitter. That's at speaking_human on Twitter. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking human.